Dr. Lee Minho wiped his hands clean after finishing his last patient of the day. The small blue creature with 6 legs had been easy to treat. Just a simple cut from playing too rough with its owner's children. He smiled as he watched the happy family leave his clinic through the large glass doors. Kepler Station was always busy. Ships came and went every hour, bringing travelers from dozens of different worlds. Dr. Lee had seen almost every type of alien creature that existed in the galaxy. His veterinary clinic sat in the middle of the station's main ring, where most of the shops and services were located. The walls of his clinic were covered with certificates and photos. Pictures showed him treating giant worm-like creatures from the gas planets. Others showed him working on tiny flying animals that glowed in the dark. His reputation had grown over the past 10 years. Now alien travelers from across the galaxy brought their sick pets to him. Dr. Lee was about to close for the night when his emergency communicator started flashing red. The sound was loud and urgent. He pressed the button to answer. "This is Dr. Lee. What is the emergency?" A rough voice came through the speaker. The universal translator made it sound strange and mechanical. "Doctor, this is Captain Thekval of the merchant vessel Darkwing. We need your help right away." Dr. Lee had treated animals for the Velthari before. They were a tall, gray-skinned species that traded goods between star systems. They usually took good care of their animals. "What seems to be the problem, Captain?" "We had a major system failure. Life support went down for almost an hour. Most of our cargo animals are fine, but our most valuable specimen was hurt badly. We need medical help immediately." Dr. Lee grabbed his emergency medical bag. "What type of creature are we dealing with?" There was a pause on the other end. "It is very rare, Doctor. A bipedal mammal from a distant world. We found it as a juvenile on a planet we were surveying. The creature has been with us for many years now, Canary." "You tell me more about its biology. What does it eat? How does it breathe?" "It breathes oxygen like most carbon-based life forms. It eats processed protein foods. The creature is small compared to most intelligent species, but it has always been surprisingly strong and difficult to handle." Dr. Lee nodded. He had dealt with strong animals before. "How badly is it injured?" "We are not sure. It was unconscious when we found it after the life support came back online. There may be internal damage from the pressure changes, Doctor. This creature is worth more than our entire ship. We cannot let it die. Bring it to my clinic immediately. I will prepare the emergency treatment room. We will be there in 20 minutes. Dr. Lee ended the call and quickly began setting up his equipment. He called his assistant nurse, Kim Hana, who lived nearby on the station. "Hana, I need you here right away. We have an emergency case coming in." "I will be there in 10 minutes, she replied. Dr. Lee had treated thousands of different alien species. Each one required different medical approaches. Some had green blood that carried oxygen differently than red blood. Others had multiple hearts or breathing organs that humans had never seen before. He pulled out his universal medical scanner. The device could analyze the basic biology of almost any known species. It would tell him what type of blood chemistry the creature had and what medicines would be safe to use. Nurse Hana arrived quickly. She was a skilled medical professional who had worked with Dr. Lee for 5 years. Together they had saved many unusual creatures. "What are we dealing with tonight?" she asked while putting on her medical gloves. "A bipedal mammal from an unknown world. The Velthari say it was injured during a life support failure. They seem very worried about it." "That is strange. The Velthari usually stay calm during emergencies. They must really value this animal." Dr. Lee arranged his surgical tools on the metal table. They said it was worth more than their entire ship. It must be incredibly rare. The emergency doors opened with a loud hiss. Captain Thekval entered with 3 other Velthari crew members. They were all over 7 feet tall with gray skin and large black eyes. They carried a sealed bio-containment pod between them. Captain Thekval spoke quickly. "Doctor, thank you for seeing us so late. The creature's condition may be getting worse. Set the containment pod on the examination table." "What can you tell me about what happened?" one of the crew members answered. "Our main life support generator exploded. The backup systems took almost an hour to restore full atmosphere. We found the creature unconscious in its habitat area. Has it been conscious at all since then? No, Doctor. It has not moved or made any sounds. We are very concerned. Dr. Lee noticed that all 4 Velthari seemed nervous. Their skin had changed to a darker gray color, which he knew meant they were stressed or frightened. Before I open the containment pod, I need to know more about this creature's biology. What is its home world like? Captain Thekval and his crew looked at each other before answering. The world where we found it is classified as extremely dangerous, Doctor. The atmosphere is toxic to most species. The gravity is much higher than standard. The radiation levels would kill most known life forms within hours. Yet this creature survived there naturally? Yes. We found it as a small juvenile. It was alone and appeared to be orphaned. We thought we were rescuing it. Dr. Lee was puzzled. If the world is so dangerous, how did you survive long enough to rescue it? We only stayed on the surface for a few minutes. We wore full environmental suits and had to leave quickly. The creature was small enough to fit in our emergency rescue. Pod and Nurse Hannah looked concerned. Doctor, if this animal comes from such a dangerous world, it might be carrying diseases or toxins that could be harmful to other species on the station. The containment pod has been sealed since we left that world many years ago, Captain Thekval assured them. We have run medical scans. There are no dangerous organisms. Dr. Lee activated his medical scanner and pointed it at the containment pod. The readings were strange. The creature inside had a body temperature and heart rate similar to many mammalian species, but something seemed different. I am ready to begin the examination. Please, step back to a safe distance. The Velthari crew moved to the far side of the room. Dr. Lee noticed they seemed more nervous now than when they had arrived. He slowly opened the bio-containment pod. A cloud of cool air escaped as the seal broke. Dr. Lee looked inside and his entire world changed in an instant. Lying unconscious inside the pod was not an alien creature. It was a human being, a young Korean man with black hair and pale skin. He was breathing slowly and appeared to be badly injured. Dr. Lee's hands began to shake. He looked up at Nurse Hannah, who was staring at the pod with wide eyes. She had realized the same thing he had. This was no alien pet. This was a human being who had been kept in captivity by the Velthari for years. And from what they had just heard, he had somehow survived on a world so dangerous that it would kill most known species. Dr. Lee's mind raced with questions, but he knew he had to act quickly to save the young man's life. Whatever had brought this human to be here, right now he was a patient who needed immediate medical attention. Dr. Lee tried to keep his face calm while his heart pounded in his chest. He looked at the unconscious human in the containment pod, and then at the Velthari crew who were waiting for him to begin treatment. Tell me more about where you found this creature, Dr. Lee said carefully. He needed to understand what had happened to this person without letting the aliens know he recognized a human being. Captain Thekval stepped closer. We discovered it on a world in the Outer Rim. The planet has no official name. We call it Death Rock because nothing should be able to live there. What made the world so dangerous? The air would burn the lungs of most species. The ground is covered with poisonous plants. The radiation from the sun is so strong it would kill a Velthari in less than 1 day. The gravity is 3 times heavier than our home world. Dr. Lee began his medical examination while listening. He used his scanner to check the young man's vital signs. What he saw made him gasp quietly. The readings were incredible. The human's bone density was far higher than any species Dr. Lee had ever treated. His muscle tissue was packed so tightly it looked like armor under the skin scanner. Most amazing of all, his body was actively healing itself even while unconscious. How long has this creature been with you? Dr. Lee asked. Almost 15 years. We found it when it was very small, maybe the size of a juvenile Velthari child. Nurse Hannah moved closer to help with the examination. When she saw the scanner readings, her eyes went wide. She understood what they were looking at. Dr. Lee continued his examination. The young man had several broken ribs that were already starting to heal. There were burns on his skin from radiation exposure, but they were fading even as Dr. Lee watched. Most shocking was the blood work. The human's blood contained antibodies for dozens of deadly toxins. His liver showed signs of processing poisons that would kill most aliens instantly. His lungs had adapted to breathing air that contained chemicals harmful to other species. This creature seems to have survived injuries that would be fatal to most known life forms, Dr. Lee said to the Vilthari. How has it been so resilient? One of the crew members answered. It has always been difficult to contain. We have had to replace its habitat barriers many times. The creature seems to grow stronger when it faces challenges. What do you mean? When we first found it, the creature was weak and small, but as it grew, it became more aggressive. It learned to break through materials that should have been impossible for something its size to damage. Captain Thekval nodded. We had to build special restraints. Even then, the creature sometimes escaped its habitat area. We would find it exploring parts of our ship that were sealed off. Dr. Lee felt sick. These aliens had been keeping a human child prisoner for 15 years. They had watched him grow up in captivity and treated him like a dangerous animal. Has the creature ever tried to communicate with you? It makes sounds sometimes. We think it might be trying to speak, but the sounds mean nothing to us. We have tried to teach it simple commands in our language. Nurse Hana asked a question. What does it eat? Mostly protein compounds and processed foods. It seems to be able to digest almost anything organic. We have seen it eat things that would poison other species. Dr. Lee continued his scans. The young man appeared to be in his early 20s. His body showed signs of malnutrition from his childhood, but he had grown tall and strong despite the poor conditions. I am seeing some internal injuries from the pressure changes during your life support failure, Dr. Lee said. The creature will need several days of treatment to fully recover. The Vilthari crew looked relieved. Doctor, we cannot thank you enough. This specimen is extremely valuable to us. Why is it so valuable? Captain Thekval lowered his voice. There are scientists who would pay enormous amounts to study a creature that can survive on a death world. We have had offers from research facilities across the galaxy. Dr. Lee felt anger growing inside him. You plan to sell this creature to researchers? Eventually, yes, but first we want to understand how it survives conditions that kill other species. If we could learn its secrets, we could explore worlds that are currently too dangerous. The young man in the pod stirred slightly. His eyes moved under his closed eyelids like he was dreaming. Dr. Lee noticed small scars on his arms and hands. Some looked like they came from medical equipment. Have you been running tests on this creature? The Vilthari looked uncomfortable. Only basic medical scans to monitor its health. We are not scientists ourselves. Dr. Lee knew they were lying. The scars told a different story. This human had been experimented on for years. I will need to keep the creature here for extended treatment, Dr. Lee said. The internal injuries are more serious than they first appeared. Captain Thekval frowned. How long will treatment take? At least a week, possibly longer. I will need to monitor its recovery carefully. The Vilthari crew discussed this among themselves in their own language. Dr. Lee could understand parts of their conversation through his universal translator. They were worried about the cost and time, but they agreed they had no choice. Very well, Doctor. We will leave our specimen in your care, but we want daily reports on its condition. Of course. I will contact you immediately if there are any changes. After the Vilthari left, Dr. Lee and Nurse Hana stood alone with the unconscious human. The clinic felt very quiet. What are we going to do? Hana whispered. I do not know yet, but we cannot let them take him back. Dr. Lee looked down at the young man. His face was peaceful in sleep, but there were lines around his eyes that spoke of years of stress and fear. He is human, just like us. He deserves freedom, not a life in captivity. Hana nodded. But if we reveal what he really is, it could cause problems for all humans in this part of the galaxy. Most aliens have never seen our species before. Then, we need to be very careful about how we handle this. The young man's breathing became deeper and more regular. His body was healing itself with incredible speed. Dr. Lee realized he was looking at a human who had been forced to adapt to impossible conditions. This was not just a rescue case. This was a glimpse of what humans could become when pushed to their absolute limits, and tomorrow the young man would wake up. The young man's eyes opened just as the station's morning cycle began. Dr. Lee was checking his medical equipment when he heard a sharp intake of breath from the examination table. He turned to see the human sitting up with perfect balance, despite having been unconscious for hours. His dark eyes moved quickly around the room, taking in every detail. His body was tense and ready to move. "Hello," Dr. Lee said softly in Korean. "My name is Dr. Lee. You are safe here." The young man's head snapped toward him. For a moment there was recognition in his eyes, like he almost understood the words. Then confusion replaced it. Dr. Lee tried again. "Can you understand me?" The response was immediate and terrifying. The young man launched himself off the examination table with fluid grace. He landed in a crouch near the far wall, his eyes never leaving Dr. Lee's face. His movements were unlike anything Dr. Lee had ever seen. Every step was perfectly balanced. Every muscle moved with deadly precision. This was not just a human being. This was a predator. Nurse Hana entered the room carrying medical supplies. When she saw the young man, she froze. He turned toward her with the same predatory focus, calculating distances and escape routes. "Do not move suddenly," Dr. Lee whispered to her. "He sees us as a threat." The young man's breathing was controlled and steady. His hands were relaxed but ready to strike. Dr. Lee could see the corded muscle in his arms and shoulders. Years of survival had turned him into something that most aliens would classify as dangerous. "We want to help you," Dr. Lee said, still speaking Korean. "You are hurt, we are doctors." The young man tilted his head slightly. The Korean words seemed familiar to him, but he could not place them. His mouth moved like he was trying to remember how to speak. Suddenly, he spoke in broken Velthari language. "Where masters? Why new cage?" Dr. Lee felt his heart break. This human thought he was in another prison. He had been conditioned to expect captivity. "This is not a cage," Dr. Lee said gently. "This is a medical facility. We want to help you heal." The young man's eyes narrowed. He had learned not to trust kindness. In his experience, it always came with a price. He moved toward the door with the same fluid motion. But when he reached for the handle, something unexpected happened. The door opened easily. He had expected it to be locked. This confused him. In his life with the Velthari, doors were always locked. He was never allowed to move freely. Dr. Lee saw the confusion and took a careful step forward. "The door is not locked. You can leave if you want to. But you are injured. Your body needs time to heal." The young man looked at Dr. Lee with suspicion. No one had ever given him a choice before. Freedom was a concept he barely understood. Nurse Hana spoke in Korean, her voice gentle and motherly. "What is your name?" The young man's reaction was startling. He pressed his back against the wall and his eyes filled with something that might have been tears. The Korean words touched something deep in his memory. "My name," he whispered in broken Korean. "I had name." Dr. Lee felt hope growing in his chest. "Yes, you had a name. Can you remember it?" The young man closed his eyes and pressed his hands to his temples. "Jaewon," he said quietly. "Park Jaewon." "That is a good name," Dr. Lee said. "My name is Lee Minho. This is Kim Hana. We are Korean, just like you." Jaewon opened his eyes and stared at them. "Korean?" "Yes. We come from the same world you do. Earth." The word Earth hit Jaewon like a physical blow. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor. Memories were trying to surface, but they were buried under years of conditioning and survival. "Earth," he repeated. "I remember. Sky. Blue sky." Dr. Lee sat down on the floor across from him, keeping his distance, but showing he was not a threat. "Yes, Earth has a blue sky. Do you remember anything else?" "Food. Warm food. And voices. Singing voices." Jaewon's hands were shaking now. The memories were painful because they reminded him of what he had lost. Nurse Hana sat down as well, forming a small circle. You were taken from Earth when you were very young. The Velthari found you and kept you as a pet, but you are not a pet, J1. You are a human being. Human, J1 said the word like he was tasting it. What is human? Dr. Lee smiled sadly. Humans are what we are. We are intelligent beings who come from a world called Earth. We have families and friends. We make choices about our own lives. Choices? Yes. You can choose what you want to do. You can choose where you want to go. You can choose what you want to eat. This concept was so foreign to J1 that he could barely process it. His entire life had been controlled by others. The masters come back, he said with certainty. They always come back. The Velthari think you are their property, Dr. Lee said, but you are not. You are a free being. J1 looked at his hands. They were scarred from years of testing and confinement. I am not free. I am specimen. I am valuable. No, Hana said firmly. You are valuable because you are alive and intelligent, not because someone owns you. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of the clinic's communication system. Captain Thekval's voice came through the speakers. Dr. Lee, we are calling to check on our specimen's condition. J1's entire body tensed when he heard the Velthari voice. His eyes became cold and calculating. The transformation was immediate and frightening. Dr. Lee quickly answered the call. The patient is awake but still recovering. I need more time to complete treatment. We want to see the creature today to assess its condition ourselves. I am afraid that is not possible. The patient is in a delicate state. Any stress could cause a setback in recovery. There was a pause. Very well, but we will return tomorrow for an examination. When the communication ended, J1 was gone. He had moved to the far corner of the room without making a sound. He crouched there like a wild animal, every muscle ready for violence. They come tomorrow, he said in a voice that was barely human. They come for me. Dr. Lee realized that J1 was not just afraid of the Velthari. He was preparing to fight them, and from what Dr. Lee had seen of his capabilities, that fight would be terrifying for everyone involved. We will not let them take you, Dr. Lee promised. J1 looked at him with eyes that had seen too much pain. You cannot stop them. No one can stop them. But Dr. Lee saw something else in those eyes. For the first time in 15 years, J1 had hope, and hope, combined with the survival instincts of a human who had been forged in the crucible of a death world, was a dangerous thing. The Velthari had no idea what they had created. They thought they owned a valuable specimen. What they actually had was an apex predator who was finally beginning to remember what it meant to be human. Dr. Lee spent the night researching everything he could find about humans in the galactic databases. What he discovered made his blood run cold. Humans were listed as a theoretical species from a Class 12 death world. The files described them as potentially the most dangerous apex predators in known space. Most alien civilizations had policies about avoiding contact with death world species. The worst part was that humans were classified as a potential galactic threat if they ever achieved space travel. The galaxy's major powers had agreed that first contact with humans should be handled with extreme caution. J1 had fallen asleep in the corner of the room, but even in sleep, he remained alert. Dr. Lee noticed that he woke up completely every time there was a sound in the corridor outside. Early in the morning, Dr. Lee called his old colleague, Dr. Yoon Soo-hyun. She worked in the restricted research section of Kepler Station and had clearance to access classified alien databases. Minho, why are you calling so early? She asked when she answered. Soo-hyun, I need you to come to my clinic immediately. I have a situation that requires your expertise. What kind of situation? I cannot explain over the communication system. Just trust me and come quickly. Dr. Yoon arrived 30 minutes later. She was a brilliant xenobiologist who had studied alien life forms for most of her career. When she entered the clinic and saw Jaewon sitting quietly in the corner, she stopped walking. Minho, she said in a whisper, that is a human being. Yes, The Velthari brought him to me thinking he was an alien pet. They have kept him captive for 15 years. Dr. Yoon moved closer to get a better look at Jaewon. He watched her approach, with the same calculating gaze he gave everyone. She could see the predatory intelligence in his eyes. "This is impossible," she said. "Humans are not supposed to exist in this part of the galaxy. How did he get here?" The Velthari found him as a child on what they call a death world. They have been studying him and planning to sell him to research facilities. Dr. Yoon pulled out her portable scanner and began taking readings. "His bone density is incredible. His muscle fiber composition is unlike anything I have seen. And look at these neurological readings." She showed the scanner to Dr. Lee. "His reaction time is faster than most known species. His pattern recognition abilities are off the charts. This human has been optimized for survival in ways that should be impossible." Jaewon spoke up in Korean. "You scan me like the masters do." Dr. Yoon nearly dropped her scanner. "He speaks Korean." "He is starting to remember his origins," Dr. Lee explained. "But 15 years of captivity has damaged his psychological development." "Doctor?" Yoon sat down and looked directly at Jaewon. "What do you remember about Earth?" Jaewon was quiet for a long moment. "Water. Big water everywhere. And mountains with white tops. And people who looked like me." "Do you remember your family?" Pain flashed across Jaewon's face. "Woman with kind eyes, she sang to me. Man with strong hands who carried me." "Your parents," Dr. Yoon said gently. "Parents." Jaewon repeated the word like he was trying to understand it. "They are gone?" "We do not know, but there are billions of humans on Earth. Your species survived and grew strong." This information hit Jaewon hard. He had thought he was alone in the universe. The idea that there were others like him was overwhelming. "How many?" he asked. "Billions," Dr. Lee said. "Humans cover the entire planet Earth. They have built great cities and learned to travel between the stars." Jaewon stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see the busy corridors of Kepler Station filled with dozens of different alien species going about their daily lives. "Why I only one here?" Dr. Yoon and Dr. Lee looked at each other. This was the hardest part to explain. "Your species has not made official contact with the galactic community yet," Dr. Yoon said. "Most aliens do not know that humans exist." "Why?" "Because your world is classified as extremely dangerous. Most species are afraid of Death World inhabitants." Jaewon turned back to face them. "Afraid of me?" "Yes," Dr. Yoon said honestly. "The galactic databases classify humans as apex predators. Your natural abilities make most alien species very nervous." Jaewon looked down at his hands. "I am dangerous?" "You have the potential to be very dangerous," Dr. Lee said. "But you also have the potential to be kind and intelligent and peaceful. Being dangerous is not the same as being evil. The masters know this. The Velthari know you are strong and difficult to contain, but they do not understand what you really are. They think you are just an unusually resilient animal." Jaewon laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They will learn." Dr. Yoon felt a chill when she heard the tone in his voice. "What do you mean?" "They come today. They want to examine me, but I am not the same creature they left here." "Jaewon, you cannot hurt them," Dr. Lee said urgently. "If you attack the Velthari, it will cause problems for all humans in the galaxy." "I will not attack," Jaewon said calmly, "but I will not go back to Cage." Dr. Yoon checked her portable computer. There might be another way. Galactic law has provisions for recognizing the rights of intelligent species. If we can prove that you are sentient and not just an animal, they cannot legally keep you as property. "How do we prove that?" "You would need to demonstrate intelligence, self-awareness, and the ability to make independent decisions. The problem is that the legal system moves slowly, and the Velthari might try to remove you from the station before we can complete the process." Jaewon smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. "They can try." Dr. Lee realized that Jaewon was not afraid of the Velthari anymore. 15 years of captivity had taught him to survive impossible situations. Now that he knew he was not alone in the universe, something had changed inside him. "We need to be careful," Dr. Lee said. "Violence will only make things worse." "I understand," Jaewon said, "but I will never be property again." Dr. Yoon's communicator beeped. She checked the message and looked worried. "What is it?" Dr. Lee asked. "I just received a priority alert. There is a research vessel requesting permission to dock at the station. They want to examine what they call a rare biological specimen in the possession of Velthari traders." All three of them understood what this meant. Word about Jaewon had spread beyond Captain Tekval's crew. Researchers were coming to study him. "How long do we have?" Dr. Lee asked. "They will arrive in 6 hours. Jaewon walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. 6 hours to decide the future. Dr. Lee and Dr. Yoon realized they were not just trying to save one person. They were potentially about to introduce humanity to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and they had 6 hours to figure out how to do it without starting an interstellar incident. The research vessel arrived exactly on schedule. Dr. Lee watched through his clinic window as the sleek ship docked at Kepler Station. It was twice the size of a normal transport and carried scientific equipment that could be seen even from a distance. Captain Tekval and his crew arrived at the clinic shortly after. They brought with them 3 researchers from the ship. The lead scientist was a tall, thin alien with blue-gray skin and multiple eyes. His name was Dr. Vextar, and he specialized in studying dangerous life forms. "Dr. Lee," Captain Tekval said as they entered, "we have brought experts to examine our specimen. They want to verify its condition before we complete the sale." Dr. Lee felt his stomach tighten. "Sale?" Dr. Vexatar spoke in a cold, clinical voice. "We represent the Galactic Institute for Biological Research. We are prepared to offer substantial compensation for this Death World specimen. The creature is still recovering from its injuries," Dr. Lee said carefully. "I am not sure it is ready for extensive examination." "That is precisely why we need to examine it now," Dr. Vextar replied. "We must determine if there has been any permanent damage that would affect its research value." Jaewon had been listening from the next room. When he heard the researchers talking about his research value, something changed in his expression. The last traces of fear disappeared from his eyes. He walked into the main room with a confidence that made everyone stop talking. His movements were fluid and controlled. Every step was perfectly balanced. Dr. Vextar immediately pulled out a scanner and began taking readings. Fascinating. The bone density readings are remarkable, and the muscle fiber composition suggests strength levels that should be impossible for a creature this size. Jaewon stood perfectly still while being scanned, but Dr. Lee could see the tension in his shoulders. He was preparing for something. "The neurological readings are extraordinary," Dr. Vextar continued. "This specimen shows intelligence levels that approach sapient species. It might be one of the most valuable research subjects we have ever encountered." "It is not a research subject," Dr. Lee said firmly. "It is a patient under my medical care." Captain Tekval laughed. "Doctor, you have done excellent work treating our property, but now it is time for us to reclaim it." One of the researchers pulled out a restraint device designed to subdue dangerous specimens. "We should secure it before transport. The readings suggest it could be physically dangerous if provoked." The researcher approached Jaewon with the restraint device. What happened next changed everything. Jaewon moved with a speed that none of the aliens could follow. He stepped aside, caught the researcher's arm, and gently but firmly guided him away from the restraint device. The entire movement took less than 2 seconds. The researcher found himself on the other side of the room, completely unharmed but utterly bewildered. He had not even seen Jaewon move. "Remarkable," Dr. Vextar whispered. "The reflexes are faster than our scanning equipment can measure." Jaewon spoke for the first time since the aliens had arrived. His voice was calm and clear. "I am not property, I am not a specimen. I am a sentient being, and I refuse to be sold." The words hit the room like a thunderbolt. Captain Tekval stared at Jaewon with his mouth open, The researchers looked confused and excited at the same time. "It speaks," Dr. Vextar said. "The intelligence levels are even higher than we suspected. My name is Park Jae-won," Jae-won continued. "I am a human being from the planet Earth. I was taken from my home as a child and kept in captivity for 15 years. I am not your property, and I will not be sold to researchers." Dr. Lee stepped forward. "Under galactic law, any being that demonstrates sapience and self-awareness has the right to legal representation and protection from enslavement." Captain Thekval's skin turned dark gray with anger. "This is impossible. The creature has never shown signs of intelligence before." "I showed you exactly what you expected to see," Jae-won said. "You wanted a dangerous animal, so I acted like one. You wanted a valuable specimen, so I let you believe I was one." Dr. Vextar was frantically taking notes. "This is unprecedented. A death world species with intelligence levels that rival the most advanced civilizations." "I am not a death world species," Jae-won said with a slight smile. "I am human. My people have survived and thrived on Earth for thousands of years. We have built cities, created art, and learned to travel between the stars." This statement caused chaos among the alien researchers. They had never heard of humans before, but the implications were staggering. "If what you say is true," Dr. Vextar said, "then your species represents a completely unknown factor in galactic civilization." "My species is not unknown," Jae-won replied. "You simply have not been introduced to us yet." Station security arrived, called by the commotion. The security chief was a veteran officer named Commander Rolk, who had dealt with unusual situations before. "What seems to be the problem here?" Commander Rolk asked. Dr. Lee spoke up. "Commander, I am filing a formal complaint under the Sentient Beings Protection Act. This individual is being held against his will and threatened with sale to research facilities." Commander Rolk looked at Jae-won with professional interest. "Are you claiming that this being is sentient?" "I am claiming that I am sentient," Jae-won said directly to the commander. "I am requesting legal protection and recognition of my rights as an intelligent being." Captain Thekval protested loudly. "This is ridiculous. The creature is our legal property. We have documentation proving ownership." "You have documentation proving that you captured and enslaved a sentient being," Dr. Lee corrected. "That is called kidnapping and slavery, not ownership." Commander Rolk was faced with a situation he had never encountered before. The law was clear about the rights of sentient beings, but it had never been applied to a species that was not already recognized by the galactic community. "I'm going to have to contact the legal department," he said. "This situation requires immediate review by experts in galactic law." Dr. Vextar saw his valuable research subject slipping away. "Commander, surely you can see the scientific value of studying this specimen. Think of what we could learn." Jae-won's response was quiet but carried tremendous weight. "I am not a specimen to be studied. I am a person with thoughts, feelings, and rights. If you want to learn about humans, you can ask me questions, but I will never again be caged or experimented on." The power in his voice was unmistakable. This was not a plea or a request. It was a statement of fact from someone who had the strength to enforce it. Commander Rolk made his decision. "Under emergency provisions of the Sentient Beings Protection Act, I am placing this individual under station protection until legal experts can review the case." Captain Thekval and the researchers were escorted out, protesting loudly about their lost property and research opportunity. When the room was finally quiet, Jae-won walked to the window and looked out at the stars. For the first time in 15 years, he was truly free. "What will you do now?" Dr. Lee asked. Jae-won smiled. "I will learn about my people. I will help other humans who might be in situations like mine. And someday I will find my way home to Earth." He turned back to Dr. Lee. "And Dr. Yoon, but first I think I would like to help you in your clinic. I have learned many things about survival and healing. Perhaps I can use that knowledge to help others." Dr. Lee nodded. "I would be honored to work with you." As the three humans stood, together looking out at the galaxy, they knew they had changed everything. The first official contact between humanity and galactic civilization, had happened not through diplomacy or war, but through one person's simple demand for freedom. And in research labs across the galaxy, scientists were already beginning to ask a new question. If there was one human out there, how many more might there be? The answer to that question would reshape the galaxy forever.